So I think I could talk to Trish Mariani for a really long time. She's quite a professional in all she does, and I really enjoyed her openness of her conversation. We first started out with this idea of holding space, just like I'm holding space with you, being very focused on what I have to say in this video, and also just being receptive, right? And that's a part of holding space, making it a safe place for people to explore themselves, to listen to the ideas, and to just connect. So, holding space is a huge part of healing, and a huge part of clinical work is just being able to sit with somebody in whatever is going on for them. I love the whole concept of intuition and sort of developing the sense of intuition because we have that. We have it. Sometimes we don't utilize it. Like we think of this thought of synchronicity, of someone in our mind that we have been missing, or for some reason we're just thinking about them a lot that day. The whole idea about the hello, like right now, if you can think about someone that you want to sort of spiritually or psychically say hello to, notice what happens. Like maybe you get a picture of them in your head about how they're doing, and you can actually just hold that or hold them in your mind for a little bit. I love this idea about working on your life in a way of getting some kind of perspective of your connection with things and what you have in mind and what you visualize for yourself or what you want to manifest for yourself. The whole idea of holding your life in an intentional way. I think that is so important to keep in mind from day to day. And it's so interesting when I think about the connections between some of the other conversations I've had with people, the whole idea about what's the biggest tool that we can actually use in our lives that doesn't cost us a dime, that doesn't take that much time, and it's just the breath. We can ground ourselves with the breath. We can anchor ourselves and in a grounded way to the earth with our breath. We can reset our nervous system with our breath. And there's going to be some links below to link you to a few of the ideas about breathing, simple ideas. One of them, you know, was mentioned also in Jules' video as well, that it's a three-part breath where you actually breathe in, hold the breath, and then exhale, a longer exhale count. I love that. There's nothing you can do at that moment. There, your mind can't go anywhere else. It can't wander. It actually can only stay with the sound and the feeling of the breath. And the other is this idea of just letting go. And Trish taught us a tool of blowing roses. Like you think about, something that's really bothering you and you just blow roses, which just means like if you picked up a dandelion, right, and the dandelion that just has the seeds and you just blew it and it just all the seeds went a million places, you can imagine the same thing if you're blowing a rose with all the petals just blowing away. And and sometimes there's things we can't do a lot with the things that are going on around us, but we can learn to let them go so they don't build up inside of us and create like bad feelings or stress feelings inside of us. So this constant feeling of what can you let go of day to day. And she mentioned one other tool, which was the amusement of life, like how amazing life can be. And you can't make this stuff up, right? And I was thinking about that myself because I'm visiting a place in New England, and one of my old friends from college lives just 2 blocks from where I am. And I got to see her. We did some of the usual things we do, like work out together. But I also got to see her walking down the street, walking her grandbaby in a carriage, which I was like, is this really happening? Like this person that I knew in my very early, probably late teens, early 20s. So life is so amusing, and to find the amusement in it. That's what Trish was reminding us. So I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. So, Trish, I'm so glad that we get to hang out together in a different way and have a conversation. And one of the things that I was just talking to you about was this idea about how people show up to a space of healing, no matter what it is, if it's like going to a massage, acupuncture, therapist, psychic, chiropractor, doctor, like how how people show up. And I really want to explore the space between like passivity, like I'm just going to go get a prescription, to I want to actively engage in an energetic way with this person who has a gift or has education around something that I feel like I need from them. But so I just wanted to see if we could start talking in that way and see what happens, see what comes up.
All right, excellent. Well, first off, thank you for the opportunity. You know, I love talking to you in any way, shape, or form. So I'm very appreciative of that. But as it relates to space, what's interesting about the work I do, which is really just reading people's energy field. That's what I do. I look at their energy field and I just tell you what I see. But the holding space for it's still a conversation. I might be telling you what I'm looking at. You might be asking questions, or the person might be having particular topics they want to look at or healing on. But it is very much an interactive experience. And I get a lot of people that haven't ever had a reading before. And I think they might have something in their head about it being like, I'm wearing a turban with giant hoop earrings and I'm looking at a crystal ball, though all those things are really cool. But ultimately, it is just that. It's a conversation. Whenever I start to work with people, I give them an overview of what the format will be like. But one of the things I make sure to emphasize with everyone is that this is not the Trish show. This is a back and forth. Whenever people talk about themselves, it's not all me just saying what I'm seeing. Holding space includes them filling up the space with what's going on with them. Sometimes I'll ask them a question. Sometimes I encourage them sharing what brought them here in the first place, because when you're in that type of healing exchange, for me at least, looking at energy, when they speak, whoever it is, it's like they're opening up, a drawer. They're opening up a closet. You're letting me see more, because we're all so much more than what's off of the top of our heads. I think somebody wise somewhere said that, we have, every time we blink our eye, there's 10,000 thoughts. I mean, there's no way you can comprehend all that. And so part of what happens in an energy healing and an energy reading is to kind of have someone else, myself in this case, kind of step back and look at the big picture and be able to see, well, what is the unifying piece? And the more people exchange and talk, the more they kind of open things up and take us down a hallway and kind of move in deeper. And that's why I tell people, please interrupt me. I mean, I can talk the whole time, but let's exchange, let's talk about what's going on. And more stuff comes to the surface. And
Right.
that is what I try to at least offer.
Right. I like what you said is like fill up. If you're trying to hold space for somebody, you want them to fill up the space so you can see what you're holding, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. So I wanted to just think about that with you out loud for a second. So here we are talking, right? We're in a virtual space. We've always been in a virtual space. A lot of times we're talking on the phone, but when you're holding space here with me right now, what are you actually doing? I mean, I'm probably doing it too. I'm just doing it in a different, maybe with different words that I would describe it, right? But like holding space for someone is a really important concept. It's especially in the healing realm. Like it's really important. So so tell me how you do it. Like describe it a little bit more. Like when someone starts talking to you, how do you create that container of healing with them?
Well, the first thing, it starts with me, and it starts with being grounded. And I know that that's kind of a jargon term, but more and more people understand what that means. Grounding is a tool, something that I consciously visualize. And the more you do it, you're doing it even in the grocery store, not just whenever you're working with somebody, but holding space begins with holding my own space, not, I think of it as good manners energetically.
Okay. Yeah.
Have some good manners, keep yourself grounded, give yourself a place where you can release. What I also like to do, and I think it's a critical step for really all spirituality, are two key things: boundaries and letting go all the time. I'm grounded. I'm also really aware of where my energy is. I mean, we're consciously aware of where our body is. I'm sitting in a chair, I'm in a room, but I take it to another level and I think, where's my energy at? Am I down the street? Am I at dinner? Am I in the room? Even that quick thought about where am I energetically, just because I put attention on it, it immediately gives me that boundary of being here. And the letting go is also important, because when you're in holding space for somebody, and you're encouraging them to fill the space, you want to make sure that you're non-reactive to it, right? You don't want to, one, in my language, match their energy. You want to let them go dance in the room, cry in the room. We are very much almost entrained from when we're young, to empathize, or that's what I mean by matching. We become whatever we're there with. And so when I'm in a healing space in particular, I try not to match the energy because I want them to be in the room.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I'm letting go. That grounding cord I talked about is like that little trash chute of, if, let them talk, let them have whatever emotion they need. And so it's that fine line, because you can have that empathy, that strong compassion for them, but you don't want that to become so overpowering that now we're both crying together if we can help
Right.
not
We're
do it.
like merged as one.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I talk about that in psychological terms as like a transference, right? Where you're too much relating to the person that you can't help them see, or you can't see them, right? So it's like it's almost like differentiating yourself from that person all the time, and making sure that your transference isn't speaking louder than they are, in a way. Um, but what I also think is so important is the whole idea about boundaries, is like having certain like internal boundaries too, that you don't cross with the person, or that you hold, because otherwise you can't really see clearly, or feel, or see the energy clearly, that in the way that you talk, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, it's neutrality is certainly a key. And I explain neutrality doesn't mean I don't feel anything. It just means I'm not hung up on any one emotion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm letting it flow through. Even if it gets past the boundary, I'm letting it go. Um, and I also try to my very best when I'm trying to hold space for somebody. I don't make it about me. It's not about me.
Mm-hmm.
It's a conversation, where we're interacting. But I think it's key to, and that's why you have to have that boundary and let it go, is that, no, this is not about what I think you should do, at least not in my work. It's about, what am I seeing that you need illuminated? This is not about what Trish personally thinks you should do about a situation. I don't know. I don't have your answers, but holding space means that if I'm doing it properly, I can, give the other person a hello on what it looks like is best for them to get them to that next step. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I think one of the things about psychology and therapy, and doing energy work with people, is that I mean, I've worked on it a lot with you to sort of develop my intuition a little bit more, so that I'm much more keyed into the energy levels of people. And just like you just said this thing about giving a hello, which I kind of wanted to have you explain a little bit what that means. And I'll tell you how I give my hello to people before they come and see me. But how do you give your hello, and what does it mean to do that?
Yeah, the hello is, it's almost like it is an energy. you could even think of it, if you need to do it in material terms, like a tone. It's like, hello, I'm not saying that you have to do it this way or not. I'm just, did you notice this is in the room? Did you notice that this is what's going on? I'm not telling you, I'm not judging it. A hello means I'm not judging it. I'm just saying, hey, did you mean to set that on fire? Was that what you were going for? Maybe it was. Maybe it was. No, there's no judgment to it. But the hello is the neutrality of trying to call out, was this the intention? And oftentimes in that conversation, it'll be, no, that wasn't the intention at all. And again, it's all about kind of, in an energy healing, it's about releasing and expanding awareness so that ultimately that space you're filling is something that you feel comfortable in,
Yeah.
It's like I'm
Okay.
filling it up and I'm comfortable occupying my body, my soul, my mind. That's kind of
Right. And the hello also can be in the aspect of before you even meet someone and
oh
you
yeah.
you say the hello of like you kind of know who's coming into your space. Like for example, like it's clear and true for everybody that you might meet someone throughout the day and say hello, like let's say it in a very, normal, mundane way. And we get different energies from people. Oh, that person said they were fine, but they didn't really seem fine. Or that person seemed so happy. Like, wow, that was like a really fun conversation or wave I had with that person. Right. So, like, there is all this energy that comes to us all the time and we pick it up. We know that it's true that we have this energy exchange with the people in our world and the world itself. Right. Um, I know for me, I always do when I'm meeting a client, even calling a client for the first time, I'm always thinking about the energy that I get from just that inquiry, and who they are energetically. Even when I hear their voice, like what comes at me and what might they be wanting to talk to me about. Like I already kind of hone in on that because I really work on developing my intuition about people so I can use it because I know after you sit with a certain number of people, you pick up lots of different things about people. Probably you've seen that over your years of working too.
Yeah, what you're reminding me of, is, a practice that you can do very quickly is even at the top of the day. You take a moment before your day gets busy. There's something so magical about before it really starts. You're with your cup of coffee and you're in that space of saying hello to the people you're going to talk with, whether it be a client, whether it be a family member, whether it be even a task. You just take a moment. And I know in my psychic language, it's about looking at the energy. It is what I said before. You can ground at the top of the day. You can, get yourself like, I'm here. You get your boundary together, not as a defense, but as a, this is me, this is not me, so that you're able to just, whew, and then you think of the person. You think of the person, you say a name, maybe you don't know them yet. I love when you said the name, that there's a lot in a name. And you just think, oh, I'm going to see this person later today. And you notice what you feel in your body around it. And you give it, you recognize it not as a problem, but as I'm noticing a little anxiousness either with them or with me. And then, you kind of, as we would say in my language, you let it go, you release the energy, you give it an internal hello. And then ultimately you see that person later in the day. Maybe how you feel gets validated or not. But I do believe there is some sort of space where you feel almost that much more prepared, that much more you,
Yeah.
because you've kind of already said hello to it hours before you even see it. And then you let it go, right? That's what the grounding cord's for. You don't chew on it. You instead go, yeah, I'm going to see Susan later today. How would I like that experience to go? Even if it's just something quick like a word. That's setting energy. That's energy
Right.
healing right there. And then you forget about it, and then you get to see the person, and you've already kind of put that desire out in the universe. It just makes it that much
Right.
sweeter.
Or it's we've been talking a lot. Well, there's a few things I wanted to say
Yeah.
with if you could explain grounding cord just so people know what that means.
Yeah, grounding cord. Okay. This is if you're feeling it, if you're watching it and you're feeling like trying it. What you want to do is it's best if you're sitting upright. I always like to encourage people to have both feet flat on the floor, just so you know it's your body's way of grounding. You know, both feet are on the floor. It doesn't matter if you are on a second floor or the 10th floor of a building or right on the bottom, but both feet flat on the floor, and then get your body comfortable. You just relax the shoulders. We hold so much on our shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
And then eyes open or eyes closed. It just depends on what works best for you. But then you visualize a cord of energy um, from your tailbone. You can even kind of move around, like wiggle in your chair a little bit. Find where that tailbone is.
Mm-hmm.
And then see a cord of energy. It can be made out of anything. It can be like a ship's anchor, kind of going down into the depths of the ocean. It can be a rainbow. It can be anything you want. It can be, a bunch of monkeys holding each other's tails. You can get as kindergarten and as fun as you like, and I always highly encourage that. But you're taking that cord from the base of your spine all the way into whatever the child in you visualizes the center of the earth to look like. Maybe it's made out of marshmallows, maybe it's magma, doesn't matter. But it is that cord of energy from the base of your spine, just all the way down. And be like a kid. If you
Mm-hmm.
asked your inner 6-year-old to do this, you'd have it done in an instant. And then, most important, once you've got that grounding cord in and you kind of visualizing what that looks like, you want to expand it. Make it about 10% wider than your hips. So you can even open your eyes for a minute and take a look. How wide are your hips? How wide would that actually be?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you tell people to do a grounding cord, they tend to just see your spine go straight down.
Right, right.
And you want it bigger than that. You're bigger than that. And so you visualize, your aura, that energy body around you, that
Mm-hmm.
little poof. And you visualize it tucking in into that grounding cord that is 10% wider than your hips, like a shirt tucking into a pair of pants. And when you do that, you're letting all the layers of your aura, your aura is your energy body, and there are 7 layers to it, each representing the different energy centers that your spirit buttons into the body. 7 buttons, all having different specialties, but all tucked in. And then does it feel like to have that grounding cord just constantly releasing for you? And people ask, well, what happens when I move? Or if I'm in a car?
Mm-hmm.
Take it with you.
Mm-hmm.
That connection is the same. And check it throughout the day,
Mm-hmm.
because we lose our grounding all the time. We get caught up on the clock, or we get distracted. And then the next thing you know, we don't have one. We're worried. And then something about worry makes that grounding cord shrivel up like a prune.
Right, right, right. And there's your vessel and your visual for like letting go.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. Let it keep dropping down. Like, think of it like that
Right.
portable trash chute.
Right. So I think people could understand that concept of, and do probably, who are listening to this, that understand that idea about when you're not grounded, when you're reactive, when you're not in your best place, when you've spaced out, when you've, not really stayed focused on your tasks. So everything's taking a lot longer. Like those are the kinds of times that I know I'm ungrounded, and it takes like a second, right, to bring it with you. Like you're driving, stay grounded, be here now. Those kinds of thoughts.
Precisely. Or
Mhm.
even if there's a person that you interact with that
Mhm.
you lose your grounding with. Maybe they
Yes.
you get nervous around them, or oh, you might not like them so much. Throw that grounding cord on. It doesn't even have to be first thing in the morning. It can be before you walk into a building or get out of your car, or in the middle of a conversation.
Right.
You're like, wow, I'm getting heated up. Drop it.
Right. Right. That's such a great reminder. When you were talking earlier and we were talking about the hellos, I was thinking about the first time I learned the concept of synchronicity, and that was sort of the hellos that I would say to people, in my world that I was thinking about, or that kind of thing. And that's when I started to realize, oh, the synchronicity thing really works. Because if I would think about them, pretty much like once in a while, or most of the time, I would see them, get a call from them, on Facebook, a picture would flash of them or something like that. So, do you ever think about that out loud with people, or what's your thoughts about that idea about synchronicity and energy?
Love it. It's a thing. It's a wonderful thing. It happened to me just today.
Mm,
And to me, on an energetic level, that synchronicity is your intuition. It is. It's energy. I think of it very much that way, because in our world, we kind of dismiss and invalidate intuition, and energy as a whole. We
mhm.
might use the word vibe or something like that, but for the most part, we don't believe in synchronicities as much as we should, but they're little messages all
Yeah,
the time.
right.
So when you think of somebody and then they call a few days later, or you think of a song and then you hear it, or repetition, when you look at the clock and it's 11:11 or 12:12, or why am I seeing, yellow butterflies today? Or even what I call little niggles in your belly, where you're like, I knew that person was going to be late. Validate it. I
Yes.
always tell people, pat yourself on the back, you know, because those synchronicities are kind of a tether to the universe. I think of it almost like a hug, like I'm being seen from something bigger. And look at that. It's not a coincidence, though our very mind-led world would have you believe that.
Mm,
Everything is energy.
right.
And
So it's not a wish then. It's like it's an intuition.
it's an intuition, and it is a real spiritual gift. Validate it, because it is a muscle. If
Right.
you don't validate it, then it won't grow. And from my concept of things, you gave this to yourself as a gift, as a spiritual gift. But
Mm,
if it's like, I tell people, it's like, if you've got a Ferrari in your garage, go drive it. What are you leaving it in there? But if you don't, in our world, if you don't recognize it with a pat on the back or see the synchronicities, don't more come. Don't, when you start to notice it,
yes.
have you
Yeah.
noticed, have you in your experience, don't more
Definitely.
come?
I mean, I think one of the things that we've been working on, or I've been working on with you, is this concept of life design, of
Mhm.
designing, continuing to work on the life that I want to have. And I do that in a very energetic way. And one of the ways that I think I do it with your help is following my synchronicities. Like, what is the world kind of showing me or opening up for me that I want more of? Or what do I want more of that I want to kind of tap on the world, like, hey, I really want more of this kind of feeling or this kind
Yeah.
of life. And so that's one of the ways I think working with an energy healer like yourself works, is working on your life in this way. I don't know if you could describe that, like how you help people work on their life. Or I don't know if you do that exactly, or I sort of assign that job to you.
It's okay. Sounds cool. Um, what I do with folks, and I get all kinds of requests and things that are interested in people looking at. It's like this. I like to think of it as almost like think of it like a spiritual GPS. You're
Mm,
the expert on you. You know you. You're you. But sometimes, because we live in such a loud, noisy world, and it seems to be getting more and more noisy with things going on, that what comes down here is people come to kind of get, well, for a lot of reasons, but at a high level, where am I? What am I not seeing? What can you help me understand where I am in my life? And that's, as the energy healing that I do, is first off like that spiritual GPS. Hey, did you know you were in Miami, or did you think you were in Milwaukee? I like to tell them, a popular thing people ask is, I call it a 10,000-foot view. And a lot of people take me up on it, is like, well, how do I see you when I first look at your energy body? Because a lot of people are so stuck in what's for dinner and this is my problem. It offers a wider perspective of what's really going on.
Right.
Um, and so that is part of the GPS. And the next, it's really about, what am I stuck on? Because people get stuck on things. It's almost like a record player that goes around and around. And then I start to look at actually what the energy is that's keeping them stuck. It's almost like unraveling spaghetti. And then we have that holding space and working together. That's what the healing becomes, is more and more. If I were to pick one word, it's about illumination. It's, wow, I thought I was in Miami, but I'm actually someplace else. And oh my gosh, I hadn't looked. I'm stepping out of the picture, and I'm becoming the soul more, instead of necessarily just getting caught in the weeds all the time. Does that make sense?
So let's say, yeah, it makes sense. Let me see if I can translate it a little bit. Is like, let's say you're stuck on some problem in your life, or and that's all you can see is the problem. You can't see anything else. And that might be being in Miami or Milwaukee. But you're stuck in a place in your mind, and actually that repetition of stuckness keeps you there. Right. And then
Right.
the thought is, if you give your person, would you call it, the 10,000-foot view, you're saying, like, there's so much more that you're not seeing about your situation. Um, and I could like completely translate that into psychological terms, like reframing, and
Oh,
maybe you're
mhm.
catastrophizing, and those kinds of thoughts of what keeps you there, and what you have to sort of bend in your mind to take yourself out of there. But energetically, there's another thing that you can do also, is just expand your energy. Would you say energy field? What would you say? Like, how would you say to get yourself out of stuck and into accepting the 10,000-foot view?
Yeah, what it does is, I think it's almost a very quick relief for people. It's like, because think of it like a blinders. This is how they come in looking like this. The goal is you leave like this. And suddenly I've got so much more options and freedom than before. So oftentimes what the reading and the healing does is expand that. And what I've noticed with working with people, you know, throughout the years, is there's more and more demand to learn tools.
Hmm.
People need tools on how to manage things from a day-to-day basis. And
Hmm.
so that it's not you don't always have to talk to somebody, though it's always open and a wonderful thing to do, whether it be a therapist, a family member, your dog, a psychic, whichever.
Yeah.
But tools matter, and tools really make a difference, because whenever it comes up, after we're reframing, to use your word, and we're expanding, well, now what do I do with it, right? Now, if
Right.
anything, I've got more things to think about potentially. So once we start working on getting somebody unstuck, the next step from there is,
Mhm.
how do you navigate this bigger arena now? And that's when the tools come in, which I'm sure you probably do in your work too. And those tools, based on what I see in their aura, is, I'll tell them what I see, saying, hey, you might try this tool, this is why, to support you even when we're not talking. And this,
So
gets
give me a tool that you might suggest, like one of the common ones that you feel like people call on you for, and you're like, okay, this is one that everyone could use.
Gosh, well, I'm going to take the most basic one. Um, and that I have a couple that I use, well, probably three that I use a lot, but this one I think is accessible to everybody, and it has to be breath work. Breath
Okay.
work.
Hmm.
Without a doubt, it is the greatest tool of transformation from an energy perspective because breath is life force. If you're not breathing, you're not alive. So it is that union of the breath coming into the physical form. Breath calms the body, it calms the mind. So you've got the whole, mind, body, spirit all connected up in that breath. It all comes in. I think I read somewhere, even the Navy SEALs use breath work to support the very tense and difficult work they do. I think their technique they use is something called box breathing, that's out there. But there's a million types of breath work, and sometimes I'll see something specific. But just in general, nothing like calming the breath changes your pulse, changes
Right.
your outlook. By far, fastest transformation. Do it, and it'll make a difference. It can't be.
Yes, I agree. I completely agree. I'm going to add a few links to different kinds of breath work, especially the box breath. I think that's a good one too. What's the second most tool that you would say this is going to help you stay in your arena
Yes.
if you start getting out of your stuckness, because then you have a challenge. Now you're going to need some tools to stay in your expanded arena that you want to have.
Yeah, yeah. So the next one that comes up around that is, gosh, it's tough to pick. There's like twin tools here that might work, but I think I'm going to share one that's quick and easy because that's
Okay.
kind of our lives these days. And it's a tool called blowing roses.
Hmm.
And it's a visualization tool, not dissimilar to how you create a grounding cord. This is something that you visualize. But what I love about this tool is that you can do it anywhere. You don't have to be meditating for hours. And it goes like this. What you want to do is you want to close your eyes, ideally, but you can have them open. And then you visualize a rose, like the flower. It can be pink with purple polka dots. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be what a real rose looks like. And then you take whatever is bothering you. It can be it could be your workplace. It can be a person. It could be just, I don't feel good in my chest. I'm nervous. It's as if you're putting that energy into the rose and you're visualizing it, just gobbling it up. Put the whole building, put your whole office building in a rose, put someone else in a rose, put, nervousness, ball it up and let the rose take it. And then put a bomb underneath it and blow it up as many times as you need. Now, what's important to understand about this is that you're not hurting anybody. You're not hurting anything. Some people get worried about, oh my gosh, that's so mean. It's like, no, it's not. I just told you an imaginary rose, dude. It's okay. Lift the humor. But there's something about seeing a rose, pink with purple polka dots or whatever. You put your stuff in it and you just blow it up, get it out of there. I tell people it's like giving back Tupperware. You've exchanged a lot of energy. You might be having a surplus of it that isn't yours. Give it back. Give it back. Let it go. Give it to Mother Earth. Let her absorb it.
Right.
It just lightens the energy.
Right. So here's another tool of letting go, just another letting go tool. Okay.
Yes.
All right. You're going to have to give me your top three. So here's your third one.
Okay, I'm committed.
Yes.
This one is, I'm going to say I have used it myself whenever I have read the book. I'm going to give full credit to Julia Cameron, who
Yes.
wrote the book, The Artist's Way.
Right.
Wow. It's a fantastic book. It's over 30 years old. The woman is a genius. And it's still around because it's magnificent. Her morning pages
Yes.
are the best.
Hmm.
And that is right, 3 pages, you know, uh, first thing in the morning, get your cup of coffee and just sit down in a journal. You're not reading it, you're not sharing it. It doesn't matter what you're putting in it, but just 3 pages of stream of consciousness. Dump out what's in the brain. It is a letting go tool. It is a GPS tool because it is resolving the noise that
Right.
is getting in the way and obstacles. It is brilliant,
Right.
absolutely brilliant.
Hmm. It's a good way of checking in with yourself. Like, oh, this is what's bothering me. Oh, this
Yeah.
is still bothering me. This has been bothering me for a really long time. So I'm just like writing all about it until it's not there anymore. Hopefully it's not there anymore, or maybe it is, but it's just a place to put it.
Yes, there's something about grounding. And I don't know if it was a thing when she wrote the book, but I always tell people use pen and paper. We're very much technology driven now.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And pen and paper is what does it. You need to go old school, as they say, that groundedness. Get it from the mind is ether. You want to get it into the material so it doesn't ricochet energetically, because it will. Because doesn't it just bounce around unless you
Right.
get it out?
Right.
But what I found personally, whenever I did it, is that day after day, there is a time when you kind of expunge the noise in your mind, and then these cool things come out. You start, I was like, wow, that's really positive. Where did that come from? And something else almost feels like it
Right,
takes.
right. You get rid of whatever's in the way of you being able to access the things that you really want to. Kind of like that when you were talking earlier about tools to get out of that mundane stuckness. Like there's more places to live than that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And this is a way to actively curate it for yourself on a daily basis. It's so
Hmm.
worth it. I mean,
Yeah.
it can only take 20 minutes, just 20 minutes to write
Right.
stream of consciousness.
I'm wondering, how did you start getting into this work? Like, what was the draw?
Well, the draw was somebody told me to go get a psychic reading, and I was like, whatever. And I got one, and it was just fascinating. It was for me. Someone told me things that I had never thought, and it just resonated. I mean, you kind
Mm.
of know when something just resonates with you. And so I started taking classes at the Berkeley Psychic Institute. And then one class led to another, and then I went through their clairvoyant program. And they have a wonderful class there that says, yeah, you're not crazy, you're just psychic. And then suddenly a whole bunch of things that have been happening to me my whole life started making sense. And when I really dove into it, is my mother was ill with cancer and we were very close. And I was getting all these crazy experiences, like seeing things in the corner of my eye and noticing those synchronicities like crazy. And I thought, well, clearly I am severely depressed and lost my mind. But ultimately, in doing the energy work and who I am, I have a corporate job. I've been in corporate for, 25 years. I show up at meetings, I facilitate, I have that very 3D world life. I call it my Batman and my Bruce Wayne. You know,
Yeah.
I am Bruce Wayne,
Uh-huh. During the
very
day.
during
Yeah.
the day, but I'm also Batman and have this aspect of me that has just been crucial in keeping my sanity, the energy.
Mhm.
But that's how I found it. Someone suggested trying it, and then personally going through things that I found that these tools kept me sane.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great story. And I think that sort of speaks to almost I don't know, how would I say it? The relativity of like everybody has an aspect of this in themselves, and whether you want to acknowledge it or not, it's no problem if you don't. But there is like everyday people have highly developed intuitions, and sometimes we don't acknowledge them enough, I think, you know?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I completely agree. But I would say that if we were in a world that taught people to interpret this right from the very get-go, I think it wouldn't be, it's only strange because we've decided that it is. And because, I'm in tech, I build software, but yet I do this. And you'd
Mhm.
think that would be a completely different aspect of your brain. And it probably is, but it's made my life so much fuller to
Right.
acknowledge the energy of it. My life would be so like missing. It is such a
Like
crucial.
one dimensional, like what you said, like just one dimensional. It feels.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Well, I think I think in highly intuitive states, it's a really much nicer place to live. It's a safer, more beautiful, more hopeful space
yeah.
in myself, anyways, to live in that space than in the linear space or the concrete space that we have.
I agree. It's way more fun. And then you can make friends with plants and animals. Your relatedness to everything in your world becomes softer and
Hmm.
more welcoming. I think
Hmm.
that is the unspoken benefit, and not soft as in, ooh, it's bad and too out there. It's more loving. That's what I mean by soft, more compassionate and loving.
Right. So if you were going to give any more words to the people that are listening about energy work or things that you want them to sort of pay attention to, or just an openness and maybe compassion towards themselves, is there anything you would add just to,
Hmm.
and
I would probably say, probably the most important thing, just I'll do two. One, the most important thing in life in general, just looking at energy and doing energy work, has
mm,
to be humor, sense of humor, amusement. They even teach that, as part of a psychic program. Is amusement is the solvent of the universe. You
mhm,
know, it's that stepping back. Read bad jokes. Laugh at yourself as best you can, even if it's a little bit inappropriate. That's the first step, because if you take yourself too seriously, nothing seems to work. Even if
mm,
it's a serious topic, see if you can, read, a surfer joke or something silly, just to give it some space. There we go, back to that word we started off with, holding space. Hold space for yourself whenever you don't take yourself so seriously. That's probably the first thing, because once you do that, then you open the door for more energy work. Because if you're, very serious and then that's no fun. And two, it's going to get in the way of you really connecting with energy. Because then again, you need to be your inner 6-year-old. Don't take yourself so seriously. We're all just kids in adult bodies or somewhere along the way. And um, if you ask a child what they see and what they want to do, kids automatically know energy.
yeah.
It somehow gets taught out of us. So
Hmm.
be your inner 6-year-old, play with energy, be curious, have a sense of humor. And then I think you'll find, if that's a practice in one way or another, the energy work naturally just flows in. You don't even have to go find it.
Hmm. Nice. Yeah. That's a simple way to just think about it. Because if we do see kids like, you know, they come running towards certain people in a crowd, right? They
Yeah.
see, I don't know, white light coming out of people's heads or something like that,
Yeah. Yeah.
So there is this lightness and this like receptivity too, and it's like I think that is also the energy work of us adults, is like being more receptive to the things that make us happy, or being more open to them, instead of, like what you said, like just, I have to do this next and that next and that, like very task oriented, and
Yeah.
into the mundane problems where we can't get out. So that's great. Well, it's been so good to talk to you. I know there's a lot more to cover, but I think that we did a really good job with the holding space part and and the tools, because I really want people to also be demystified by energy work and psychic thoughts about working on a psychic plane with somebody, because I think that demystifying that is important. I think people have sort of gotten a different perception over the years. It's so simple. It could be, that you get a psychic reading from somebody who does tech.
Yeah.
Completely different phenomenon than the turban and the
Right.
the hoop earrings,
Gold
right?
hoops.
Yeah.
Though I do
So
have
when,
gold hoops, but
so if you when you end holding space with someone, right? like we're going to end our space together. We were kind of holding space here. You were holding it for me. I was holding it for you. How would you end it so that it's, because it's kind of a sacred space, like when we have conversations of importance or we're discovering things that we believe in. How do we end something like that?
So there's lots of ways you can do it. It is personally what I like to do is to just take a beat, take a heartbeat, and
Mm-hmm.
recognize, regardless of how much was exchanged, whether or not you'd finished all that you wanted to say, be in your heart space and just say, wow, what a pleasure it was to be here with you today. I mean, I can get emotional just thinking about it. Thank you. What a pleasure. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me and me talking to you. And whenever I end a call and I say it was a pleasure speaking with you, I mean it. I
Yeah.
mean it, because I step back and I recognize the connectedness. I know I think yoga, they'll say namaste. They'll be like, the divine light in me notices the divine light in you.
Yes.
Maybe that's my way of saying it. Is it's been a pleasure, and I mean it. You
Yes.
There's other tools and ways, but that's mine. That's mine.
No, I love it. I've been getting in this habit of like, what would you say, the top of the day, thinking about the way that I want to meet the day and also closing the day, right? Honoring the day that I had. Like there is something about that because there's the gift of the people that you meet, the people you get to talk to, the people that you get to exchange ideas with. It's not everybody that you get to talk to. It's not everyone that you have a connection with. So thank you too for taking the time to talk to me. It was a pleasure, and namaste, and I see the light in you, and and honor the time that we had. It was magnificent. So thank you.
All right, my pleasure. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too.